Okay, so I had some extra rubber feet here. The original rubber feet were crumbling to dust. That would probably scratch your table or whatever you put it on. So I just installed these. It's the original screw and they just screw on. It's no big deal. Now inside of this thing, there's a rat's nest of components. I just want to point out to you before I close this up, these long crayon type components here, these are your capacitors. They used to make capacitors out of wax. So these are wax capacitors. And what happens with these over time is they leak more and more current. They turn into resistors. So I put my meter on, I can't do it with one hand, but I put my meter on these, at least most of them, the ones that I could get to. And they do, in fact, have a resistance through the capacitor, which means that they are leaking current. And that's what you would expect. I mean, I would be shocked if they didn't, because they're just so old. But I didn't find any that were super bad. They were all in the range of hundreds of kilo ohms to mega ohms. And so I would expect them to work. You will, of course, be using more energy. You'll be drawing more amps than you would otherwise, but I think it would still be fine. So maybe it's worth trying. But a lot of times, people the first thing they'll do without even doing anything else, they'll just go in and replace all of these capacitors with modern equivalent capacitors, just because it's such a common failure. So that's the most common, that's one of the most common issues you'll see with these old devices like this. On this side of the device, I cleaned it up with some sponge with soapy water, and it looks really nice. There is a little bit of staining here, which I think will just come off with a solvent. I haven't tried yet. So maybe like isopropyl alcohol or some other, if that doesn't work, some other stronger solvent. Just be careful because you don't want to damage the paint. These little plastic windows, if you look inside, let's do that now. If you look inside, you will see, well, that one's hard to see. You will see that for each one of those windows, you have an incandescent bulb, a lamp. And of course, these can burn out as well. I don't know if these are even working. Hopefully they are. Sometimes they're hard to find in the same form factor, the same socket and so forth. And so if it were me and I had to replace one and I couldn't find the same exact bulb online, I would just change out the socket, just change everything out and put in something that's, reasonably equivalent, and just, mount it here instead of having to find, the specific bulb for this socket. Just change the whole socket up. That's what I would do personally. It's hard to tell with the light not on, but it might be that this plastic has become opaque over time. You can see it's still translucent, but more and more dark over time. And if that's the case, I can cut pieces of acrylic that will match this. It's hard to tell though if that's even required. I would, if it were me, I would want to try to keep the original if I could. But this one, in fact, looking at it now, it also seems a little bit warped. But, take a look at it and see if it's fine. Maybe it is fine. On the inside of this, once I cleaned out the dust, it looks really nice, actually. So these are the two vacuum tubes that have the sticker. Let me see if I can see it on this side. No, you can't. Anyway, there's a sticker on it claiming that it was tested bad in 1946. So it also looks like that sticker had been on it for decades while it was being used. It's hard to say. I don't really know. But typically these bulbs, you know, they're pretty easy to find on eBay. I'll take a look in my box to see if I have any. The rest of these, again, it's impossible to know if any of these are bad or good without putting them in a tube tester or just, you know, turning this thing on and trying it. But there's no, I don't see any visible problems here. It looks pretty good to me. So this is the second most common failure is you have a burned out bulb, and that's also an easy fix. You just get the replacement bulb, no big deal, right? So those are the two biggest things you have to look at when you're troubleshooting this, if it doesn't work for you. One final thing, I took one of these things off and cleaned it up because it was so dirty, and I knew it would look really good once I cleaned it up. It does look really good. There's a little bit of rust there, and a little bit of you know, some nicks and stuff. I would not remove that rust mechanically. If you were gonna try to get rid of that rust and make this look perfect, I would use something like maybe just white wine vinegar, you know, and let it soak in that. And the reason is that this metal, it's maybe hard to see on the video, but the metal has a kind of finish that I think a wire brush or something similar would ruin if you tried to remove the rust that way. So try the most conservative method first, maybe some household vinegar, and if that doesn't work, maybe some what is it, RLS, rust lime, and I forget, or else, but anyway, one of those products, a mild rust removal product, and then keep going up if that doesn't work.